Hi everyone, if you haven't been here before, my name is Jeff. In this glass fusing project today, I'm going to make a square or squarish bowl using a section of that part sheet I made last week. Welcome to Rocket Rose Art. In this project today, it's more or less part 2 of the part sheet one I did last week, though you could use any part sheet in this really. If you haven't seen that, maybe you want to go and have a look at that one first and just see how the part sheet was made. But this week I'm going to make a bowl out of a piece of that, and I think it's going to look quite nice. The colour scheme that I'm using should complement the darker colour of the part sheet. Now I will be making some project notes on this, and they will be available from our website. These are free and you don't have to pay for them, but if you want to make a couple of dollars donation, I would appreciate that. If you've got any questions at all, don't forget to put them in the comment section below, and I will answer them for sure. Actually, put any comments you like down there, even if you don't like the thing. But if you do like it, please hit the like button. I'd really appreciate that. So we'll get into the project now, and if you've watched this before, you'll know that the first thing we're going to deal with is the materials and the design, maybe equipment, and a couple of other things. Now, I've got quite a bit to discuss here in the materials and that, so I'll just get a couple of things out of the way first. I use Bullseye COE 90 glass. I prepare my moulds with boron nitride, and I fuse on my shelf with thin fire paper. And don't forget, the firing schedule will probably need to be adjusted for your kiln, and also if you're not using COE 90 glass. Now I'll just go over the materials I'm going to use today. Obviously we're going to use our part sheet here. That was made last week. I'm going to use some opaque white because I want a nice white contrast to that. And I'm going to use some plum as a feature colour. Now that is 0332, the plum, the white is 0013. The plum is a striker colour, just move that out of the way. And how it fires is quite different than what you see here. I'll just show you that on their Bullseye catalogue. You can see here, that's the plum there, so that is going to fire to a final colour similar to that. Now, there are a couple of factors when it comes to striker glasses, and it's mainly heat and how long you hold it at certain temperatures. So there's a little bit of unknown as far as this striker glass is concerned. This is the design that I'll be using. Pretty straightforward. It's going to have the part sheet in the middle. That's going to be surrounded by a thin line of opaque white. Then we're going to have our plum, and then on the outside some more opaque white. Overall, this is 196 mils by 196 mils. Obviously all this will be in the project notes, and that is going to be slumped in this. Now I'm not using this is an odd mould, it's an unusual shape, but I'm not using this whole mould. I'm just going to be using that part there because I don't have a mould that has steep sides like this. Of course, when it comes to moulds, you don't have to, basically use the whole thing. Here I'm just using that part of the mould. Honestly, you could put a circle in there, slump that in there, you could just a strip across that way. So moulds can be used in many different ways, so just use your imagination. This final piece should be food safe because neither the glass I use here or the plum contain things like lead, sulfur or copper. So I will double check obviously, but this should be food safe. Oh, something else about this mould. When I slump in this, I do expect the sides to curve here slightly. So I am expecting to have a slightly higher in the corners and a curve, and I think that's going to work well with the curves and the general look of this. So I have to cut everything and assemble it, and the very first part of this, and the very first firing I should say, will be a full fuse, just to fuse this all together. Then I'm going to probably cold work the edges a little bit before it's then fire polished and then finally slumped into the mould. And if you're looking for any equipment or supplies, I have put some links in the description to suppliers on Amazon, and I just need to tell you that if you do buy anything from there, I will make a small commission. So next, I've got quite a bit of cutting to do. I'll just quickly go over how I cut this. Basically what I did is I cut down one side of the part sheet and I trued that up on my flat lap over there, so it was nice and straight. I then set a guide on my ring saw to just over 150 wide, and then I run that along and cut that at just over 150. I then put a mark for a 90 degree and cut that, and then I used my flat lap, trued that up to 90 degrees, trued that up to 90 degrees, and then went back to my ring saw and cut that at the last just over 150 that way, and then trued it all up. So it's all now nice and straight, 90 degree angles all the way around. And I've got these pieces here left over, and I can guarantee you they'll end up in a project somewhere along the way. Now, you may be good enough to score and snap that 6 mils thick. I'm not. Every time I try that, it breaks. And there's proof. So I don't know what the trick is to scoring and snapping 6 mils, but I've tried just about every way that I know of and that I've seen done, and it's not 100% for me. I always end up breaking something. So now I've got to cut the white and the plum. And just a word about that. I'm not going to cut sort of like a long side there and 2 short sides. They're all going to be the same length. So they're going to be the length from there to there, for example, and I'm going to cut 8 pieces of every, like the 3 mil there, the 14 mil there, and the 6 mil there. So it'll be 8 pieces of each, and they'll all overlap on the corner when assembled. So all I have to do is just cut them all the same length. I've finished cutting everything, and I'll just quickly show you how I'm going to assemble all this. If you remember, the design has got a 3mm strip right beside the part sheet here. And if you notice, they're all sort of well, they don't overlap, but they butt on each corner. Don't know whether you can see that. And then next to that, we've got the plum, and these will overlap on the corners like that. Everything's numbered, by the way, so that I know exactly where every piece goes and its orientation. And then, of course, the last strips, these are the 6mm strips on the outside, they will overlap in the corners as well. So I'll just clean all this up now and assemble it on the kiln shelf. And when it's all assembled, I'll come back and show you, and then we'll get it in the kiln for a full fuse. Now keep in mind that this is all going to be flipped, and this will be face down on the kiln. So I'll clean everything up now and assemble it on the shelf ready for the kiln. There we go, it's all assembled and ready to go in the kiln. Okay, it's the next morning. Got it out of the kiln, cleaned it all up, and I think it's worked out quite well. And remember, this is the top, so you'll see a little bit of wobbliness about the lines and that. But the edges are nice and clean. They've got a little bit of roughness on them from the thin fire, but that'll clean up easy. Unfortunately, we do have some devid on here. You can see the haze as opposed to the nice shine. So I'll have to sandblast this and do a fire polish, but I half expected to have to do that. So, but turn it over. That's worked out really well, I think. Lines are quite straight. Now when I sandblast it, hopefully I'll get rid of these little join marks here, and it'll work out right. Now, of course, to fix that, I could put a thin layer of clear over it, but I want to fire polish it that way, so that's not really going to be possible unless I do another firing as well, which I won't. So, I'll go off and I'll sandblast this, and we'll get it in the kiln for a fire polish. Something else I meant to show you was the difference between the unfired striker glass and the fired striker glass. Now that plum, remember, is striker. Do you remember what it looked like? That's it there. So that's the unfired plum, and that's the fired plum. Quite a stark difference. And that's how strikers work. And as I said before, dependent upon colour, dependent upon temperature and the amount of time at that temperature, you can get different results. Right, it's all fused up. Now, what do you think? Tell me in the comments, love to know. I think it's worked out well. I like the plum. Basically, I like all the colours. So, very happy with that. Nice polish on it. Polished on the bottom. Got rid of the devet. Edges are nice and smooth. We got rid of that roughness from the thin file paper. So there's nothing to do with it now, except to put it in a mould and do the slump. Now that mould that I'm going to use, I've never used just that little small section that I pointed out earlier, so just how long I'll have to hold it to get the slump down in there, I'm not too sure, but we'll find out. So I'll get this in the kiln, and tomorrow we'll have a finished piece. We got Anne with us today. She's in the background over there making some rings. I'll show you a short clip of that. I think the mould has worked out fine. We've got that little drop on the sides as I expected. The only issue with that mould was the slight marks on the side from the mould, but not enough to worry about. If you did that in a round mould, you'd get something very similar. Probably the drop on the side wouldn't be as much. Let me know what you think. Love to hear from you. Don't forget, a couple of suggested videos up there, subscribe button down there. Don't forget the notifications. And until the next time, I'll say bye for now.